All right, people. So I have a few tips for completing and finalizing your atmospheric perspective landscapes. I'm just going to run through a short list of things that might be left over. So the first thing is borders. It looks really awkward when some parts have borders and some parts don't have borders. So you basically want to use the direct selection tool, select the parts that have borders, and just come over here and trash the border, and then go and select the next part that has a border and select the border, trash the border. So just get rid of all the borders, and it makes it look nice and clean. The other thing is fix the sizing of elements. Elements should be getting smaller the further they are in the distance. Like back here are my smaller elements. These are a tiny little bit bigger, and these are bigger, and so on and so forth. But this one right here looks a little out of place because it is so big and it is so far in the distance. So if you have that, you just want to make sure that your elements, whatever your buildings or your trees, they are getting smaller and smaller the further they are from the viewer. They should be biggest up front and then smallest in the back, consecutively smaller. Another thing might be like the colors. The colors should be lighter and duller the further they are in the distance, and then get darker and then darker the further they are or closer they are. So like this layer right here shouldn't be so light. So I'm just going to see if I can go in, hold down Shift and select all of those elements in the land, and then go over to fills and darken it a little bit to bring it back up. Okay, so make sure that your colors are getting lighter and duller the further they are from the viewer. Also fix the layer order of elements. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if a layer that's in the distance or an element that's supposed to be in the distance appears like it's overlapped something that's in the front, doesn't really make sense. So it's like this shape right here is in front of my closest element. So I'm just going to select it and then go over here to send backwards and just click that, keeps clicking that until it goes behind the elements that should be in front of it. Another thing is close little gaps that may be around the edges of the composition, like right here or between the elements and the land. So you just zoom in on these and you see this little gap right here. Looks very unnatural. So I'm just going to select it, select that element, and I could just grab this handle right here and pull it out so it closes that gap. So that's that one. And then some people are leaving like gaps underneath their elements. So you just grab the element and you can make it a little bit longer so it fills that gap. All right. So then if there's too much negative space, you are free to continue to add elements to it. If you would like to, duplicate, Command C, Command V, and continue making more. Like mine right here has this big area of negative space right in here, and I have all these smokestacks. So this is kind of a great opportunity to just add like smoke. So if you're doing like smoke out of smokestacks or buildings, I would just use that pen tool and start a shape, make some curves. You can even make it swirl a little bit when you want to like it to point. Just click and then go back. Make a shape, and then sample the color from the smokestack that it's coming out of. There we go. So you see I did that, but the stacking order or the layer order kind of got in the way. So that smoke should be in front of this smokestack. So again, I'm just going to select it and then move it up with this button, bring forward. Just going to keep clicking it. There you go. All right. And then if you're doing smoke and things like that, you can like select, just make one swirl or one cloud and then copy, paste it, and then transform it. Grab one of those handles and move it around and make some adjustments to it and keep going. Again, the stacking order kind of got out of whack, so I'm going to bring this forward. Keep going. Whoops. So, yeah, take care of like big areas of negative space. There's all different ways to do it. You can add things like, let's see what I have. I added power lines. Power lines were a great idea. I kind of took that from someone. If you're adding power lines and like lines from telephone pole to telephone pole, do it with the pen tool. You just grab the pen tool and let's do from here to here. I'm just going to click and then click over and then curve it. So you have to click and drag to get a curve, right? And then when you want it to end, you just double click on the last anchor point, and then you can sample the color, right? As a border with a pen tool, and you can up the sizes. Up the size. I'm not sure what the other size is. 7 or 5. That looks pretty good. So again, you are free to add elements. I did just a little bit of lightning over here. I put light in the window right here. I just did that by, let's see, underneath it, I just put a yellow shape. So I just made like a yellow shape, right? Let's make it red this time. All right, and then with it selected, I just moved it back with the bring backward button. There you go, until it's in the right stacking order. Other things that you can maybe do are like airplanes, might be interesting. Or yeah, I did one with smoke, more smoke. So I spent some time with the pen tool and I just made a bunch of smoke in different layers. That's fun to do. What else did I do? Showed you power lines. I did a little airplane, or I just did, you know, some raindrops. Made my raindrops were just like a rectangle, and I converted it to a path. And then I got a little bit closer and used the direct selection tool. So it's right here, sub-select. And what did I do? I think I added a point right here, add a point, and make that sharp. And the ones down at the bottom, I moved out a little bit, and I might have rounded them. Oops, like that. And then you can change the direction handles. Just make one raindrop and then duplicate it if you're doing rain. And that doesn't look too terrible. Well, maybe it does. Let's get rid of these things. I'm gonna just delete that one, just delete that one. Now it looks more like a raindrop, and you can sample the color from anywhere and rotate it and resize it and duplicate it. So that's one option you have. You have plenty of options for making these or finalizing your atmospheric perspective landscapes. Have fun.